Hey, Saxon 3 class, we're ready for lesson 5 today, and we're going to talk about fractions of an hour. So we're going to be looking at clock faces and talking about fractions of an hour. So if you will look in your book on page 28, we're going to start with the jump start, just a little warm up. And the first one says to count up by twos from 0 to 20. So here we go. Get ready. 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. I've got a little rhythm for that one that I like to teach. I was a cheerleader, so I like to put everything to a beat. And I like to just start with 2 and say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. You want to try it with me? Here we go. Get ready. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Good, so you can practice that. And the next one says to count up by fives from 0 to 60. So here we go. Get ready. 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. All right. The next one says, draw hands on your clock to show 8:15. It is morning. Write the time in digital form. So we're going to do that. Let me find my clock. And I should have had that ready, so I apologize. Okay, so here's our clock face, and it says in our warm-up under Jump Start to draw hands to show 8:15. So I'm going to do my hour hand first. That's the short one. What should it be pointing to? Close to the 8, right? Okay. And it might be pointing a little bit past the 8, but not much, okay? So we're doing 8:15. Now where should my minute hand go, the long one? I always start at the 12. And then we know when we make it to a big number we can count by fives because there are 5 tiny tick marks from one number to the next. So let's start at 12 and count by fives. Ready? 5, 10, 15. So it should be pointing to the what? 15. It should be pointing to the 3. So this is what 8:15 looks like on the clock, and it told us that it was morning, so what do I have to put after my digital time? I have to put AM. We're going to remember that as all morning, even though it really stands for anti-meridian. AM. We're going to think all morning. Okay? Wonderful. Now we're going to go to the mental math section. So everybody touch mental math part A. This one's about time. And the question is, and raise your hand if you know the answer, what is the time 1 hour after 8 p.m.? Emily? 9 o'clock p.m. Beautiful. Okay, look at B. This one's about the calendar. What date is 7 days after the 1st? What do you think, Sydney? The 8th. Yes, because you would take the 1st and add 7 more days to it, and it would be the 8th. Okay, now we've got some patterns, and it starts with 10. And I can't tell by looking at the blank if it's going up or down. So let's look at the rest of the pattern. Is it increasing or decreasing, everybody? Increasing by how much each time? Maddie? That's the answer, but it's increasing by 2. So that's the rule. So 10, and what would go in the blank, Maddie? 12. There you go. D is about money. Find the value of these coins. This one is a dime, and this one is a penny, even though the penny is not colored brown or copper, okay? So we've got a dime, which is worth 10 cents, and a penny, which is worth 1. So 10 plus 1, we've got 11 cents. Still not enough to buy snack, is it? Okay. Moving right along to problem solving, and you can follow along in your book. The table shows that the value of one dime is 10 cents. Find the value of 2 dimes, 3 dimes, and 4 dimes. Then fill in the missing values in the value column. So 2 dimes would be 20 cents. 3 dimes would be 30 cents. 4 dimes would be 40 cents. Excellent. Now let's look at example 1. I tell you what, look at where it says new concept in your book. Okay? It says we know how to say the time in words using hours and minutes. And the example they give us in the book says 7 o'clock, and then they spell it out. And that looks like, digitally, it looks like this, 7 o'clock. But when you spell it, you guys, it looks like this. You say 7 and o'clock, O apostrophe C-L-O-C-K. So you need to learn how to spell that, okay? The book also says 7:15. So what would I write first? 7. I spell exactly what comes out of my mouth when I read it. 7.
15.
Now I have to spell 15. The next one that they give us says 7:30. What would I do first, Job? Write 7. And then the word 30. T-H-I-R-T-Y. The next one they give us says 7:45. This one's a tricky one. Everybody, what do I write first? 7. But then what did I say? 45. Okay, 40's tricky. How do I spell that? F-O. No, you do not put the U. Remember, it's the tricky one. Crazy English language. F-O-R-T-Y. But I need another word. 5. And since it's a 2-word number there, I have to connect it with a what? A hyphen. 40-5. So that's what 7:45 looks like. Okay? And we'll wait. There we go. We also use hours and fractions of 1/2 hour, or 1/2, and 1/4 of an hour to name the time. So if I were to, let's look back at our clock again. And I'm going to erase the hands just so we can look at it. If I were talking about the whole clock, that would be 1 hour all the way around, starting and going all the way around. That's 1 whole hour, or we would say 1 full hour, okay? So this is a full hour. But what if, let's see, what if I divided it and we were talking about, I've split it into 2 pieces now, just like a grilled cheese sandwich. Does your mom ever say, do you want a whole or a half? I ask my kids that all the time. So this is not a full hour, just one of these pieces would be 1/2 hour, okay? Now what if, though, we were talking about just this much? Watch this. What if I were just talking about this? Does anyone know what that is? I bet you know fractions, so I'm going to keep drawing, and I think you'll get what I'm going for here. One of these sections is, yes. Now, another way to say 1/4 is a quarter. Because, think of $1, Job. How many quarters does it take to make $1? 4. So one of those, we call them a quarter. It takes 4 sections of this clock to make a whole hour, and one of these little sections we call a quarter. Yes, a quarter of an hour. Okay? And it doesn't matter which quarter I'm talking about. If it looks like one of these pieces, and it includes this many, we know it's a quarter of an hour, and that would be how many minutes? Let's see, from here to here. How many minutes? Okay, let's talk a little bit more. If I go all the way around and make an hour, how many minutes? 1 hour equals how many minutes? 60 minutes. That's all the way around, okay? If I just go halfway around, so I'm talking about a half hour, how many minutes would that equal? What is half of 60? 30 minutes, yes. Okay, now I'm just looking at one of these, and I divide it in half. I'm talking about 1/4 of an hour. You could also say a quarter of an hour is how many minutes? Okay, let me erase this part. Oh, it's not going to let me. It'll let me delete it, though. Hang on. We know from here all the way to here is 30. Do you know what half of 30 is? What is it, Maddie?
3.
This is tough. Let's do a little practice thing. What's half of 20? 10. Now I'm asking you what's half of 30. What do you think? 15 is correct. Yes, so a quarter of an hour is how many minutes? 15 minutes. Awesome. You figured it out. Let's look. In your book, it says the minute hand moves from 12 all the way around to 12 again in 1 whole hour. And 1 whole hour we know is 60 minutes. It says 1/2 of an hour is half of 60 minutes or 30 minutes. And we can double check that, you guys. We can always count by 5 starting at the 12. Let's count all the way to the 6. Ready? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Yep, that worked out. And then, let's see, if we see, let me totally clear everything that I've written up here. Let me delete my lines. Okay. Let's say, let me draw some hands on this clock. Here's my hour hand pointing to the 3. And you know it'd be 3 o'clock if I drew my minute hand pointing to the 12. But what if that minute hand has made it all the way down to the 6? What time is that? Macaulay? It's 3, what? 3:30, yes. We could also say it's 3:30, okay? It means it's halfway around. So here's how you spell that. 3:30. Okay, so that's another way to say it. Now let's try a different one. I'm going to erase. And we know that if my minute hand was pointing to the 12, it would be 3 o'clock, right? But what if my minute hand has made it all the way over here to the 3? Like they're both pointing to the same number. Does anybody know what time that is? Yes, Abigail. Yes, excellent. That is 3:15. And remember I told you that the 15-minute blocks, that is called a quarter. So we could say a quarter, yes, past 3. Excellent. And you will hear adults talk like this when they're talking about the time. Sometimes they say, oh, it's 15 after 3, but sometimes they say it's a quarter after 3 or a quarter past. Saying after or past is the same, okay? What if, my minute hand, we'll just start all over here. Still pointing to the 3, okay? There's my hour hand. What if it had made it all the way, ooh, that is so crooked. But what if it had made it all the way to the 9? Here's what some people say. Look, yeah, 3/4 past 3. We don't say that. Here's what we say. We start looking forward to the next hour. And actually, if it were like this, your hour hand would even change a little bit. It would be pointing a little bit more toward the 4. Matter of fact, it would be like right in here, like almost to the 4. And by the time that this minute hand gets up to the 12, this arrow is going to be pointing right at the 4. Okay? Some people say, well, let's do the digital time for this first. It's pointing between the 3 and the 4, so I have to go with the one that comes before. So it's 3. And how many minutes after? Let's check it. Let's start at the 12 and count by 5s. Get ready. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. It's 3:45. But some people call this a quarter till 4. That's the tough one. A quarter. Some people say a quarter to 4. Some people don't say to, they say till, okay? That's short for until. So you could say quarter till 4 or quarter to 4. All right, so that's a new one. Okay, let's turn the page, you guys. And let's look at example 1. It says, write each time in digital form. How about 9 o'clock in the morning? Joe, what would that look like?
9 would be
Right. Don't tell me what it looks like on an analog clock. Tell me what it would look like in digital form with the numbers.
9, 2 dots.
Okay, that 2 dots is called a colon. Everybody say colon. So it would look like 9 colon 2 zeros, and it's in the morning, so it would say a.m. Okay, there it is. Joe was right. What about 9:30 in the morning? How would I write that in digital form? Come on, 9:30. What do you think, Sydney? It's not 9 anymore, it's 9:30. Okay, Joe, you got it, dude. 9:30, and it's still a.m. Does everybody understand that? Because 30 minutes is half of an hour. It's made it halfway around, so it's 9:30. Okay, let's try example 2. Write each time in digital form. Digits means numbers, so when we say digits, we're talking about numbers. A quarter after 4 in the afternoon. Job's raising his hand. He's got this clock stuff down pat. What do you think, McKiley? Quarter after 4. So we know our hour is 4, right? Now I think it's going to be just a quarter after. It's going to be pointing to the 3. And if it's pointing to the 3 and we start at the 12, we count by 5s until we get to the 3. 5, 10, 15. So it's 4:15, and it's in the afternoon, so what do we have to put? p.m. Okay? And that we know that stands for post-meridian, but we're going to pretend that it's past morning, okay? 4:15 p.m. Okay, now this one's the tricky one. Let's see who I can trick. Look at B. 4:45 in the afternoon. That means it's not 5 yet. It's almost 5. So what do I put for my hour? It's not 5 yet. It's 4. And it's 1:45, so it's pointing to the 9. You got it. Awesome, Jordan. It is 4:45, and it's still in the afternoon, so it's p.m., past morning. Okay, let's look at our lesson practice. It's at the top of page 31. The clock says 1:15. Write the time in words using a fraction of an hour. So we get to use a fraction, but it says in words. So I know it's, if I have to write exactly what comes out of my mouth. I say 1:15. Hang on. They want us to use the fraction, so we're going to have to do this with quarters. Is it a quarter after or a quarter to? After. So that's how we would write it. We would say a quarter past 1 or quarter after 1. Either one of those would be correct. Let's look at B. Write 7:45 in the evening in digital form. Now remember, it's not 8 yet. So it's going to be, what, Job?
7:45.
You got it. And it's in the evening, so it's p.m., 7:45 p.m. Awesome. And C, Corey gets up in the morning, okay, at 6:30 in the morning. Write that time in digital form. 6:30. What do you think, Mila? We know the hour is still what? 6. And if my minutes, if I'm halfway around, it's pointing to the 6. So how many minutes would that be? 30. 6:30, and it's in the morning, so I have to say a.m. 6:30 a.m. Wonderful. Okay.